Okay, we're going to read out of John 15, 1 through 17, if you want to follow. So, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me, and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another. Jesus, I just ask that you would bless Jim. I thank you for the ways that you have just been preparing him this week and really all throughout sabbatical. God, just through your rest, through your friendship with him and also with me and just our family, Lord. And I just pray that you would, that your Spirit, God, would, that your words would come through in this message and that you would be preparing our hearts to receive what you have for us today. Amen.
Thank you, Chantel. Hey, would you be kind enough to grab me a cup of water? Yep. All right. Hi, everybody. To the faces that I've seen before, it was really good to see you again. And to some new faces that I've recently met, we're really glad you're here. Being away on sabbatical for 3 months, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Well, and I wasn't able to do it in my own strength. But there were others, and then ultimately God who said, do this, you need it. And I'm really glad that I was just gifted the ability to go and, yes, rest, but it was really good, but it was also really hard. But I'm really glad to be back. One thing that kept coming up is I missed you. I missed just gathering regularly with you, and I'm really glad to be back. So, get ready. I mean, you guys knew me before, and you knew me now. And today I feel like I'm just gonna bring it, if God allows. And these are just some things that I've experienced and whatnot. So maybe you'll leave thinking, man, he needs another sabbatical. But who cares? But this last week I was driving. Our son Coco started kindergarten, and Adeline's in preschool, and Caleb's in at-home daycare. We're just driving my kids all around, and it was just Coco and I in the car. And Cohen said, "Dad, did you even enjoy your sabbatical?" It was just like straight up, did you even enjoy it? And I stopped, and it was such a direct question that I responded to him, and I was looking through the mirror. I was like, yeah, I really did enjoy it. several people have come up and said, well, so how was it? I heard, somebody asked yesterday, were you refreshed? And yes, but how was it? There's just so much that comes with it. It's just really hard to articulate. But to answer my son's question, yes, I really did enjoy it. It was really funny because during the summer, I had to take Cohen to get his teeth cleaned. And so I'm sitting in like the little chair while he's getting his teeth cleaned, and if you know Coco, he's a talker, right? You can hear him. Actually, I think we came on a Sunday and somebody's like, oh, we knew the Ellises were here because we could hear them. But Coco, as he's getting his teeth cleaned, it was just really funny because he just talks and he's like, yeah, so we don't go to church. And I'm sitting there, as a pastor, and the lady was so kind. She's like, oh, that's okay. And I didn't feel like I needed to be like, no, I'm a pastor, we're taking sabbatical. But even for my family, like, there was this element where it's like, even coming back, there's excitement just to come back and be with our people, to be with you, to be with our family. And we consider you family. Also, away on my sabbatical, I can't make this stuff up. This is just how God works. Was the week before sabbatical, prepping for it, and these words I came across in a book called As Kingfishers Catch Fire. I won't give you all the details how I even came across this book. It's by Eugene Peterson, but it says these words, and it really also shaped some of my sabbatical. It says, Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days. The specific number 40 emphasizes the purpose of the testing. 40 days, according to the physicians of Jesus' era, was the length of time it took an embryo to mature to the point where it made its first movements and took on discernible human form. Often, in the Greek world, men had to be at least 40 years old to take on professional jobs. Moses was on Mount, and so I just want to point that out because I turned 40 during my sabbatical. And so I like it to think that before my sabbatical, I wasn't really a professional, but now I'm coming back and I'm a professional. So here we go. Now I get to bring it. So I just thought that was really funny. And what else is really funny? You guys know me. I like to take us on a couple tangents. With turning 40, I love being 40. I feel old. I was overhearing a conversation of a parent talking about their high school students. And they said that the guy, I don't even know who he is, in the new Twister movie would be hot, but he was in his 40s. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in my 40s. So anyway, I know, it's just weird. One other thing, don't worry, we're going to talk about John 15. It really matters. We took Coco to kindergarten, and they asked him to count as high as he could go. And he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm like, oh my goodness, he knows 10, 11, 12. He gets to 20, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. He just stopped. He didn't know 40. And I'm like, it's like one of those obsolete, like, once you're 40, you don't. So it's just funny that my son did, and then anyway, okay. But this is where I'm going. I'm really glad to be back. I'm 40. I feel like a professional now. I felt like it before. Being away, I really missed you, is what I'm trying to communicate. And some themes, I kept thinking, like, I don't know if God's speaking to me. But every day, in just as I would start my day, I would drink a cup of coffee with nothing on the table at the coffee shop, just enjoying it. And then I'd pull out my journal. I just would do these 2 prompts. I am thankful for. And then the second prompt was, I was actually envisioning that Jesus was responding to my thankfulness. And throughout the summer, as I would gather with the spiritual director, I would just be like, I don't think God's speaking to me. But then I'd read back through my journal and started recognizing some themes that were playing out and coming up over and over. And one of the themes that came up over and over was this theme of family. This theme of family. I saw it playing out in front of me on a beach with a Cuban family, that there was like 50 people that were coming and going, and I was sitting on the beach with people that I consider family, and I was just like, man, there's something going on here. And then throughout the summer, in different ways, seeing family, seeing relationships, seeing friendship play out. And I don't know what it was, but my daughter, Adeline, was also obsessed with this family theme. And there you go. That is family. She has drawn hundreds of these. I have one up here this summer, and we didn't say, hey, draw this so that Daddy can have an illustration to point out so that he has something cool to talk about when he's back preaching. But no joke, these are just a couple. This is a family of aliens influenced by when we went to Space Aliens. I know, but it's just family. At the beginning of the summer, she couldn't draw family, but then she started drawing her own little family units. And, family, just this theme. And I was like, man, and there's more. We actually, Chantel, we had this, our whole fridge was covered with this. And she'd come home, and she's like, Daddy, I drew you, I drew Mommy. And now I'm at the point, it's like, okay, now what do I do with all of these? But family, so this theme, if you want to ask me how my sabbatical was, this theme of family was so very important. Another theme that I shared, and we'll see it in John 15, what Jesus calls those who follow him. And even if you don't follow him, it's the invitation for all of us of this theme or idea of friendship. And on one of the Sundays, when I was still on sabbatical, we were able to gather here to celebrate my son Caleb's baptism, and we gather, and if you see on the right, that's my best friend Tyler. And I've been friends with him since I was a sophomore in high school. And this guy invited me to the prayer at the pole gathering at our high school, Green Mountain High School. And I showed up early Wednesday morning, and he wasn't there. Right, that guy. The guy that's standing up for, he wasn't there. But eventually I got connected with somebody who discipled us. And what's even more fascinating is I was just even reflecting and thinking on that. The person who discipled us, I just remembered the first thing they led us through was the book of James. When I was I was 16, that was 24 years ago. And then even this summer, one of the themes, you guys spent so much time in the book of James. There's so much good stuff. And you guys did that, but at home, I found myself enjoying and learning new things about God's Word and what He's saying to you, what He's saying to me, what He's saying to us, those of us who follow Him, who have the Spirit living within us. Friendship. And I just think of my buddy Tyler. Who would you say is one of your close friends? I was thinking, even on our phones, they have on Apple phones, you can pick your favorites. Who would be somebody that you would put in your top 9? That's the max they give you. Who would you move into that? And I was just thinking, friendship was a theme that kept coming up, and I saw this play out over and over through my time of sabbatical. And then the best way I could explain both today's sermon and what I envision for you and what I envision for me, what I envision for us who follow Jesus, is articulated in this next very weirdly bizarre story. I was down at the coffee shop with Coco and Addie. There was a couple weeks during the sabbatical where I got to spend the days with them, and Caleb was at daycare. And we have one of those red wagon strollers, and so we walked all the way down to the coffee shop, and it was great. Got a cup of coffee, and they did these things called water wows. If you're a kid, or if you're a parent of a kid, you know what a water wow is. If you're not, talk to a kid about what a water wow is. We did water wows, and then we left the shop, and we're walking right by the library. Okay, and my kids are in this cart, and I'm pulling them. I almost brought the thing, but just imagine a red wagon, and I'm pulling them. And as I'm pulling them, I'm on the left side, so I'm walking north, right by the library. The library's right here. And I hear a car come over here, on my right. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh no. Like, as a parent, you just have these instincts like, okay, we got to just be careful. Like, if protect kids if you need to, whatnot. That's what my instinct, and God, I'm sorry. But I'm going like this, and this guy, he pulls up in this big white vehicle, and the first thing I notice is that there's a pheasant stuck in the bumper of his vehicle. If you've seen this guy, or if you know this guy, I want to meet him. Okay, if you've seen him around, but he had the pheasant's probably still stuck in his vehicle, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be weird, but I can get away if I. Okay, imagine the scene. And he comes over into this way, so he's now going on head on with any cars that are coming down. And I'm like, oh my goodness, God, just please be with me. And he looks at me, and he rolls down his window, and he looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman. There we go, older Philip Seymour Hoffman. He looks at me and he points at me, and he saw me with my kids, and he says these words: "That's what it's all about." Drives away, and as he drove away, yes, he even had flashing lights on his vehicle happening, and it was just the bizarrest encounter. I know it sounds weird. Some people might be like, "Oh, Jim, it was an angel coming to talk with you." Or for those of you who are like, "No, angels don't do that." Okay, it was some person that who knows what was going on, but it spoke to me. He looked at me, and he looked that I was hanging out with my children. And he said, "That's what it's all about." That's what it's all about. What does he mean, that's what it's all about? And I left that encounter being like, what is it all about? And during my sabbatical, the themes that came up, relationships, friendship, family, kept coming to the forefront. And today, my vision, not just for this morning, my hope is that you don't just leave, you heard maybe Jim said a funny story or whatnot, and that it doesn't go and start impacting your life. My hope is that what you hear that I experienced on my sabbatical, and what you hear today will influence and change you from here on out, because I think it's that important. I think it's actually what it's all about. And here it is. It's all about relationship with God. We are relational people. A relational triune God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, before the beginning of the world, created out of a relationship. And He created humanity out of relational love for relationship. And we know this, we sense it. We desire relationships. We desire friendships. We want to be a part of a family. We long for it. We want it. We're created for it. We even hear in Scripture where Jesus says it's very simple. The greatest commandment is what? Love God, love others. That sounds simple, but it's also seemingly the most difficult thing to do if we try and do it in our own power and strength. But we are relational people. And yet, May 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General called loneliness a public health epidemic. The latest Healthy Minds monthly poll from the American Psychiatric Association finds that early in 2024, 30% of adults say they have experienced feelings of loneliness at least once a week over the past year, while 10% say they are lonely every day. Younger people were more likely to experience these feelings, with 30% of Americans aged 18 to 34 saying they were lonely every day or several times a week. And single adults are nearly twice as likely as married adults to say they have been lonely on a weekly basis for over the past year, 39% versus 22%. When asked about a change in their level of loneliness since before COVID, 43% of American adults said their levels of loneliness had not changed. 25% said they were lonelier, and 23% felt less lonely. Most saw a positive role for technology and social connections. Most Americans agreed that technology helps me form new relationships, 66%, helps me connect with others more frequently, 75%, and is beneficial for forming and maintaining relationships, 69%. However, adults are split on whether technology fosters meaningful, 54%, or superficial, 46%, relationships. 2023, 30% of people lonely, an epidemic of loneliness. And you may think, you hear that, oh, as the church, as followers of Jesus, we need to do better. Okay? If you're a helper like me, my first response, just hearing some of these stats on loneliness, my first response is, I need to befriend more people. Or you might be somebody else who's like, well, somebody else will do it. Somebody else will do the befriending. And so, it brings us to our text today. John 15. And right here in John 15, it's in the middle of Jesus' farewell discourse to his followers. He's about to go get killed. And he leaves them with some really wonderful, challenging, probably making them uncomfortable as he's saying these words. It is called the farewell discourse. He's going. And it's chapters 13 through 16. I mean, and in this stuff, I didn't spend much time with it until this week, just the whole section. And it might be something that we explore later down the road, the whole thing. But this, when he gathers with his disciples, this is where he washes his disciples' feet. This is where he talks about one of them betraying him. This is where he gives them a new commandment. This is where he talks about Peter denying him. This is where he says things like, I am the way, the truth, and the life. This is where he promises the Holy Spirit for those who follow him. This is where he says, like in today's text, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. And he talks about abiding with him. He talks about the hatred of the world, but then he ultimately talks about the working of the Holy Spirit. And so there's just so much in John 13 through 16 in this farewell discourse. And I encourage and invite you to read it this week. Like I said, I think God's been calling us to possibly spend some time in it. I'm not sure yet. But in John 15, the text that Chantel read this morning, so much good stuff. And if you look, I mean, you could spend so much time in this. But if you look at verse 14, he's talking to these people that have followed him for 3-ish years, lived with him, ate with him. And now he says in verse 14, you are my friends if you do what I command you. You are my friends if you do what I command you. It would have been very weird, I think, if Jesus, upon first meeting some of his disciples, went up to them and said, hey, I don't know you really well, but you're my best friend. They would have been like, whoa. What he did, he started his relationship with them. He said, follow me. They follow him. They follow him. They see, they interact with him. They develop friendship, intimacy, depth of all these things that come with relationships with him. And then it's not until he's giving his farewell discourse, so he's about to go die, that he says, now I call you friends. The invitation is to follow Jesus. And if you're not following Jesus, the invitation stands. He invites you into a relationship with him. And as you connect and relate with him over a period of time, there will be a part where you'll be like, I sense I am a friend of Jesus. I mean, there were times when the disciples were afraid, but eventually he says, "You are my friends." And then we'll see, even later in John, he sends them, In the end of Matthew, he uses words, go. Am I right, Dan? He uses the words go. His friends, he says, go. Go into the world, making disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. But all of this, it's all about friendship. And this isn't a new theme. If you start in the beginning, in Genesis, what did God have with Adam and Eve? They were walking and talking and in the garden. And as I was prepping my sermon notes this morning, I grabbed a coloring sheet. This is a reminder for all kiddos. Please just grab a coloring sheet if you need one during service. But even for us old people that are 40 years old now, I grabbed a coloring sheet, and I just thought it was interesting. It just says this: the snake whispered a terrible lie to Eve. In the garden, Adam and Eve, humans, created for friendship, for walking and talking, abiding, remaining in, doing things with God, interacting with Him. And the snake, the evil one, whispers a terrible lie, making those who are walking with God wonder, can I even trust God? In this John 15, there's some words that stuck out to me. The biggest one, I don't have time, but the four that really stuck out to me, and as you spend time with it, maybe they'll stick out to you. The first one was abide. It says abide so many times in just this short passage. And I was looking up, what does this word abide mean? And there's so much to it. Abide means to remain in, to stay, to wait for, to wade in, to connect to attune to live in with, to make your home in. I loved the Message translation. It says that Jesus, when he says this word abide, it means to make his home, make your home with him, to join with what he's doing. But abiding in and with Jesus is about friendship with Jesus. And then as you look throughout the rest of John 15, there's the word love or agape. And this word isn't the same for our use of the way we use love all the time. The way the word love is used here is this idea of goodwill toward others. And Jesus would use, what does love look like? It's when a brother or a friend lays down their life for another. Another word that clearly stuck out to me was the word friend. And I love this, and then we'll move forward. The word friend in the Greek that we see right here in 14, the word is philos. And the beginning of the word phi in the Greek, it actually it's not just a friend, but when I was looking at the commentaries and like the study of the word, it said an experience-based friendship. I think some of us might think that we're friends of Jesus. And he's friendly to us, yeah. But I think when he's using this word, you are my friends, it's because you've been with me for 3 years, coming to me, learning from me, me telling you hard things and you reorienting everything you thought you knew to around what you now know is to be true. But this experience-based relationship, they did it for a while, and it wasn't until into their journey with him that he calls them philos, friend. And it's not just friendship, but it's a friend with personal affection for. The other word that stuck out for me is joy. That friends of Jesus, there's a joy that comes by continually interacting with and going to him in the good and the bad and the boring days. Jesus doesn't want us just to be reminded of him once a week, but he's not like making us feel bad about it. He is inviting us multiple times in our hours, in our days, to be like, hey, come be with me. Come spend some time with me. Let's have an experience-based relationship. And when that happens, let's see how you change after you do that over and over and over. What's going to happen where we can say, I am a friend of Jesus? I really like music. And as I'm just thinking about this theme of friendship, and just I'm going to be straightforward and honest. Towards the end of James, it talks about Elijah praying for it to not rain, and then for 3.5 years it doesn't rain, and then he prays for rain and it rains. And I was fascinated as I was spending time with this word that was working on me during the sabbatical. It just says Elijah was a man, or you could say it was a person like us, with a similar nature to us. And he did what? He prayed fervently. And the thing that is in my relationship, my friendship with God, is what are you praying fervently for? And I was talking with Chantel, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to pray fervently for 3.5 years for something. And she said, Jim, it's not conditional. It's not like Elijah had a formula where he's like, I'm going to pray for 3.5 years so that something magical happens, like no rain, and then I'm going to pray and it's going to be this big spectacle. No, for Elijah, just as it is for Jesus' disciples, just as it is for those who live in Bismarck or the Mandan or Lincoln area, this area, or watching online, just for it is right now, the invitation stands for us to interact with and to be praying and talking with God, who is our friend. And so for me, I've been wrestling with, what am I going to be praying fervently for? And this is what I've come to. I don't think it might be for 3.5 years, who knows? It might be for a long chunk. I think it's going to definitely be for this next season of whatever it is that what is in store for BCC. But this is what I'm praying for you. I am praying that you would experience true, authentic friendship with Jesus. That's what I'm going to be praying for you for. I'm going to commit to praying fervently for you. Yes, everybody here. You're like, oh no, he's not talking about me. Yes, I'm talking about you. Even the people that I just met. I'm going to be praying for you that you would be a friend of Jesus. And then as you interact and engage and walk with him, just like we see all throughout, Abraham was called a friend of God. In Exodus, we see Moses being referred to as one who talked with God face to face like a friend would. It's still before us today. God's Spirit is inviting and drawing us in to friendship with him. And here's the reality that we see today too. We need friendship with God, and we also need friendship with others. I want to call us as a community that as we relate and we develop friendship. Claudette talked last week about being connected to Bismarck Community Church. She's been here for 24 years. Others have been here for longer. Some have been here for shorter. But you've been here for a long period of time. And I hope, I can't speak for Claudette, but that when I interact or you interact with me or you interact with our community, that when the issues of we want relational depth and intimacy, but when issues arise, or Jim, he jumps around too much and I don't like that, or he wore a pink shirt and he just did that, blah, 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 whatever, I don't know, like he does those things that if it bothers you, that you could come and talk with me. Not fearing that Jim's going to cut out of the relationship. Or, if I see you, I could come and talk with you. Not fearing, hey, if I talk with you, you're going to leave this friendship or this community or these people that gather together. Because we want relational depth. We want intimacy, don't we? And you might be like, yes, but we all know that relationships are hard and complex. And if anybody knew that, it was Jesus' disciples who had all these different backgrounds And they united around Jesus, and he calls them friends. The invitation before you, the invitation before me, the invitation before us as a community that we call ourselves Bismarck Community Church is an invitation of friendship. I'm committing to praying for you that you would deepen in friendship with Jesus. Did I say I like music? Did I ever share what that lyric was? Did I say it? No, because I got sidetracked. Okay, come talk with me if you don't like that. I know it's past 11. We're working on that. I'm coming back. And there's football, and we do have a barbecue, and I know there's a ton of things I also didn't mention. We'll work it out. We're working on this together. But here's my lyric. I love music, and there's a band that I've always really enjoyed, Mumford & Sons, and they have this song that I always loved and connected with, and it's called Awake My Soul. And as I was thinking about this, it just made me think, and it's a challenge for you and for me, but it says, in one of the lines it says, where you invest your love is where you invest your life. Where you invest your love is where you invest your life. And I'm going to change it up a little bit because this is how I want to challenge you. Where you invest your time is where you invest your life. And I'm trying to do this as gently as I can. I don't want to say, you're not spending enough time with Jesus. I don't want to say it like that where you're like, oh, I need to do better. I want to come before you and say, there is a friendship that is available by the triune God, and the invitation stands where it might feel like he's saying, follow me, and you're like, I don't want to. But when you start following him and you're connecting with him, something will start happening where friendship deepens and intimates because you've had experiences with him. Where you invest your time is where you invest your life. Where is your time going? What are you doing? Are you a friend of Jesus? How would you respond to that? What is he inviting you into this morning, into this next season in our church community? I really would encourage and invite you to write it down. I would invite you to maybe tell somebody. Like I said, I am committed to praying fervently for you, specifically for your relationship with God. Just like that one guy weirdly yelled out his window at me. That's what it's all about. I will stand up here and say, friendship with God is what we are doing as human beings is all about. It's about friendship. It's about God inviting us into something that we all need and desire, and it's good, and it's kind, and it's gentle, and yes, sometimes it's challenging, but the invitation still stands. And oh my goodness, I've met with so many people this week as I'm just getting back into the groove, and it feels like another ministry year has started, and we just got to get through it, or we got to get through another season of something. We got to get through another season. Let's not let another year go by. Don't let another year go by just being like, well, eventually. I've had conversations, even in this week, where people are like, I am so grateful to be alive. And even from the book of James, where it says things like, what is your life? It's a mist, and then you vanish. We are not guaranteed tomorrow or another year that we just need to slug through. The invitation for friendship with God is right now. It's right now. And I am sharing with you just what I have experienced. Another invitation and challenge, and yeah, we're gonna partake in the Lord's Supper, and we're gonna have our barbecue. But here's the other thing. Like I said, you might be somebody who's like, well, I'll let somebody else step up and serve in the children's ministry. which we need people to step up and invest in the Cohens and the Adelins. Oh, we need that. But I do not want us out here to hear, oh, we need that, so I'm going to just do that. What I want and hope for in your friendship with Jesus is you go before Jesus and be like, I don't want to do this, God. What do you want for me? And he might be like, I want you to take a step, and when you do, I'll be with you, even if it's hanging out with these little ones. And my hope is that we would be a community that goes to Jesus, we interact with him, and then we take steps out of that. Versus being, oh, Jim made me feel bad up here, because if we don't have the children's ministry, we can't do it. And that is a reality, but that is not the invitation. I am saying is as we go to Jesus and talk with him about some of this stuff, he will speak to you. He will speak to me. He will speak to us. And we can respond. We do need helpers there. This isn't even in my notes. I keep going back here like I have this all written out. I don't. This is last thing. Like I said, you might be somebody who is a helper and you want to befriend everybody. Just even in our own community, or you want to help. But you might be that person also who's like, somebody else will do it. Both of these people, whether you're one or the other or you're somewhere in between, both of these people, myself included, are invited to go talk with Jesus. That's what I'm getting at. And the more we go and spend time with Jesus, he'll speak to us, he'll guide us, he'll lead us. We can trust him. And when we fail, or we don't do it right, or something doesn't go the way we wanted it to, we go back to Jesus and say, this happened. And he'll be like, hey, it's okay. You trust me. Do you trust me? Do you trust that it's on Jesus' shoulders? So that is what I'll be praying for us for. That's the vision. I don't know how long it's going to be, but that's what came out of sabbatical, is just this theme. Friendship with God, interactive friendship with God is of utmost importance. And so invitation for you this week, find some time, talk with Jesus. Maybe you're like, I don't like you, Jesus. Go talk with him about that. See what happens. You know? Jesus claims to be the way, the truth, and the life. He claims. Do you believe that?